Arkadaşlar kapıyı kapatabilirler mi? Veya girecek olanlar. Şöyle izniniz olursa bir dakika içerisinde yavaş yavaş başlayacağız. Değerli hocalarım, kıymetli perfüzyonistler, değerli perfüzyon dernek yönetimindeki dernek yönetim kurulu üyeleri ve kıymetli meslektaşlarımız, zaman çok hızlı geçiyor. En son 2 yıl önce yine bu salonlardaydık hep beraber. Yine çok güzel bir aktivite. Bu yıl bir önceki yıllara oranla çok daha heyecanlı toplantı salonları, salon showroomları çok daha interaktif şekilde geçiyor. Livanova Uydu Sempozyumu'na öncelikle hoş geldiniz. Hep beraber Livanova olarak kardiyopulmoner bypass cerrahisinde, kalp cerrahisinde, perfüzyonda, perfüzyonu yeni bir çağa taşıyoruz. Bu minimalde toplantıyı yönetecek olan Antalya Akdeniz Üniversitesi Hastanesi'nden perfüzyonist Sabur Hanım'ı, oturum başkanımızı toplantı yönetmek üzere ben salona davet ediyorum ve sözü kendisine bırakıyorum. Hoş geldiniz tekrar.
Sevgili hocalarım, sevgili meslektaşlarım, sizinle birlikte olmak çok güzel. Bu yeni oturumda perfüzyondaki yeni gelişmeleri, teknolojik gelişmelere bu sefer Livanova'nın penceresinden bakacağız. Livanova 50 yıllık bir geçmişiyle yıllardır kalp damar cerrahisine hizmet veren, değişime, dönüşüme önem veren çok büyük bir firma ve hakikaten de ürünleri bir bütün olarak bizlere sunan çok değerli bir perfüzyonist dostu bir firma. Sunumu yapmak üzere Mr. Nuno'yu davet ediyorum. Elevating perfusion into a new era with essence and cardiopulmonary bypass circulation, minimal cardiopulmonary circulation. Mr. Nuno, welcome to. We are honored to host you.
Thank you very much.
And our Perfüzyon Sempozyum.
Thank you. Thank you for welcoming us here and to be present at this symposium. A beautiful event. Congratulations to the organizers. This is really impressive. And it's always a pleasure to be back to Turkey and to this beautiful city of Antalya. And also, of course, thank you for our local team for organizing this event, which I hope you will enjoy. The key topic we have 2 topics that we're approaching today. And so the first one is just to provide you some updates regarding the Essence perfusion system. It's not exactly new for you in Turkey, but we have some new data and also try to understand why this new generation of perfusion systems are important and do bring an impact to clinical practice. So what I would like to show you first is why Livanova is a reliable partner. What I'm trying to communicate to you is that when you buy a heart-lung machine, you are buying a machine that will be with you 10, 12, 15, 20 years sometimes. And so the reliability of the manufacturer itself and the service that it provides is of utmost importance in this setting. And so what we can give you just a brief overview, as we as a company, we are been evolving as well. We have manufacturing units in 5 sites from South America to Australia. We have in Mirandola the largest oxygenator manufacturing facility in the world, which you can eventually apply to visit one day if you wish. And we are expanding that to a further new unit. Until 2030, we will be able to further increase the production of oxygenators also by providing a new generation of oxygenator by 2028. We are the market leaders in almost all segments. Oxygenation, heart-lung machines, autotransfusion. We are not the market leaders on cannula, but we are working on that. And we are building this for a long time. So we know what we are doing. If you look at this picture, the first heart-lung machine from LivaNova, at the time was Gold-Stockert, came to the market in 1973. So a long time ago. So it's in fact a company that knows what they're doing, has a lot of expertise. And as a result of that, we are decommissioning, so this is our previous model that has more than 10,000 units in this moment on the market, which is the most successful heart-lung machine ever. Now we have a new milestone that we are celebrating. So in only 2 years after its launch, we just delivered the 1,000 perfusion essence system, which is more than other manufacturers have already able to install since their beginning. So in 2 years, we were able to be present in more than 45 countries, more than 1,000 units, and from those of which last year or this year, we are sending more than 200 units in Europe. So it's quite a remarkable event, and we thank you to the perfusion community for being so relentlessly supportive and to trust LivaNova for their choices. So what I would like to remind you, it's about the value proposition of Essence. So what do we, in fact, offer which makes us unique on the market and distinctive? Hopefully the video will play. It does.
Where data and data integration take a central role in enabling patient-tailored care. Essence perfusion system supports the perfusionist and the entire heart team in delivering truly patient-centric perfusion therapies and continuously improving clinical practice by combining a state-of-the-art heart-lung machine, an embedded patient monitor, and accurate sensing technology, including the Essence in-line blood monitor powered by B-Captor technology, all supported by an experienced sales and service team. Essence is built on proven S5 reliability and a reputation for safe CPB management. It offers embedded backup solutions, state-of-the-art safety precautions enabling the delivery of life-saving care to patients, automated sensor checks, and an integrated warning system. A combination of accurate sensing technology, the mast-mounted pumps, and embedded clinical logic allows perfusionists to deliver patient-tailored perfusion therapies, such as goal-directed perfusion. Continuously recorded data and events enhance traceability. The system combines advanced technology and an intuitive user interface, facilitating a short learning curve for users. Essence is a fully integrated system, flexible and versatile to adapt to the individual needs of patients, workflows, and users. While the advanced cable management and centralized cockpit create an efficient experience, co-created with more than 300 perfusionists worldwide, Essence perfusion system is designed to address and anticipate the needs of the new era of perfusion.
So this is just a brief overview of the main features of the system. So it's based on well-known reliability, it integrates data management, it has very accurate sensors, and we have also a concern on security, IT security, and also on I would say computer security in general. And that was the reason. I'd just like to highlight, why do we have two separate units, one to control the heart-lung machine and a second one, or two computers, a second one to serve as a patient monitor. So that is, the reason for that is essentially computer security. if you look at the current or generation of perfusion systems for many manufacturers, not exclusive to Livanova, but we are transitioning from purely electromechanical devices to computer-based devices, to software-based devices. And when is that? What we want to avoid, first of all, is to have a computer that is controlling how your heart-lung machine operates that may freeze or may have a bug that will prevent you from using the heart-lung machine and eventually having an impact on patients. And so, how did we address that concern from a point of view of maximum safety? We have one device which is not based on Microsoft Windows. Everyone that has a Windows computer knows that every now and then it may overload or freeze. So this is not a Windows-based. It's a dedicated operating system, which is only to control the pumps, the sensors, the devices. We have a second computer then that is used for patient monitoring and for data management. This one sends information to the patient monitor one way, and we have a physical encryption unit that makes sure that there is no unintended access to your heart-lung machine controller. So the cockpit is isolated from any internet or network where any computer hacker could eventually take care remotely of your heart-lung machine. Then this one is networked, is connectable to the internet, but that's only for patient monitoring. It doesn't have control on your heart-lung machine, and therefore you are isolated from that point. What I would also like to highlight is that this is the safety and reliability that we want to use most of all. So, of course, that any of us working on perfusion, the last thing that you want is to have a heart-lung machine freezing or stopping during bypass. You want something that works seamlessly during a long period of time. We also provide the tools for patient-tailored. We'll go there in a minute. And we also try to promote a system that is flexible, efficient, and intuitive, which means it's easy to operate. And in general, most of the users who have been transitioning from the stock at S5 to the Essence have done that very, very easily because it's quite easy to operate. So it's built on the proven S5 reliability. Reliability which can be shown in this short video, how the machine is tested, vibration, humidity, waterproof, you can rain on it, transport heavy weights. So this is why sometimes people ask us, we have the comment, let's look at the cockpit, how it is tested, a metal ball against it. Of course, some people say, yeah, sometimes the heart-lung machine is a little bigger or a little big than eventually other systems on the market. Well, but if you want something that is tough and is able to support physical stress, you must have a shell around it. You must protect it. And that's why it's made of steel, it's made of aluminum, and it's really a heavy-duty machine, which, as you may know, people, when they are moving the machines, sometimes they hit the walls, they hit the door. And with this one, I mean, either you have something that is robust or you have something that is light and fragile. And so we did a lot of improvements just from a mechanical standpoint, from the S5 to the Essence, the concept itself, the console, new sensors, new cable management. Let's go over that very quickly. This is what I mentioned to you. Cockpit and patient monitor are connected but work independently. We have the IT security as a major concern. The cockpit is not networked and is not a Microsoft Windows. And also to avoid, let's say, the risk of having a computer overload, what we did is that we decentralized the system, which means that there is there's not only a single unit to process all the information. Every device on the heart-lung machine, every pump, every clamp, every sensor has its own computer microprocessor in it. So it means that you can have all the information, all the tasks that are required for a heart-lung machine to operate it. They have their own processor. This makes that as you are not overloading a single central processing unit, the chance of having a computer freeze is also very low or almost inexistent. So it's less prone to computer overload. So this is to illustrate the care that we have when we transition from S5, a purely mechanical device, to a software computer-based device. So that's the concerns we had on its concept and conception. Well, as you know, some of these things are already not new, but we know that we are the only system on the market that for every pump provides one knob, and we provide duplication of the controls. We will go through these, especially a very interesting feature, which is the quality indicators. We'll discuss this in a little bit with more detail. Integrated warning system. We have also the backup system. So the 4 knobs on the cockpit are duplicated at the base. And you have an emergency connector. So in the unlikely event that your arterial pump fails, you can move a suction pump by simply connecting it to this backup connector and having it automatically replacing the arterial pump. But hopefully that will never happen to any of us. And another important factor is that in every country where the Essence is present, or LivaNova devices are present, there is always a trained service team, a LivaNova trained service team, either from the company itself or from the local distributor. So only in Turkey, if I'm not wrong, we have 5 trained engineers on Essence. If I'm not wrong about the number, should be something like that. So we are not depending only on regional service teams that can fly from one country to the other. We have locally, which gives you a much faster response time shall there be a problem. The patient tailored is currently, or based on the conception that perfusion has evolved. So we cannot treat every patient the same way. To do that, we also need very accurate sensing technology, and sensing technology will provide you the information that you need to apply the goal-directed perfusion therapy principles. And we need that. So that's why we provide the most reliable blood gas monitor on the market, which has been studied and compared with other competitors. And in fact, if you look at the results of these studies, the B capta, so this is the deviation from the reading of the blood gas machine, the laboratory blood gas machine you have normally in the OR, at the baseline before any correction. So you see that on hemoglobin we are reading minus 1.2% than the blood gas machine that you have in the OR. PO2 3.5. You see that the other competitors have a much larger deviation before alignment. So alignment means that any blood gas monitor, when you go on bypass, what you have to do is to draw a blood sample, store that value, send the blood sample to the blood gas machine, and when you receive the results, then on the heart-lung machine you correct the readings of the blood gas monitor to make it to match the blood gas machine readings, the arterial blood gas. So this is before that alignment. So at the baseline, we provide the most accurate sensing technology, and in this study, the B capta is superior to any other of the competitors when using the ABL90 blood gas machine as the reference. Now, in terms of goal-directed perfusion, so we know, you probably all already heard about it. So it just represents a database decision-making process tree when it comes to improve perfusion. It's based on this principle. In here you have 3 different patients with the same body surface area, but very different body mass index, right? So they all have the same predicted blood flow at the start of bypass. But they have very different metabolic needs. So you may have a very tall and thin patient and have a large BSA because of that, but you may have a very short and very fat patient with a much higher BMI, but again, the BSA is the same, so is the predicted flow. As we may know, fat and muscle and lean mass have very different metabolic needs. The adipose tissue has a much lower metabolic rate than muscle and tissue organs. And so that is important, especially when you have very high BMI patients, very short and very fat patients, to have a different approach to what it comes to adapting the blood flow to the patient's needs. This all started in basically the first big landmark study was in 2015 by Philippe de Sommer and Marco Ranucci. The well-known graphic. This is the incidence of acute kidney injury, stage 2, when you have a high oxygen delivery, DO2, versus the patients who had a low DO2. So we know that low DO2, low hemoglobin, and the matching between oxygen delivery, which is our petrol, our gasoline, if you want to make an analogy to the car, and then CO2 production, which is our metabolic waste. It's the exhaust of the car, if you want. So we give petrol on one hand, on the other hand, we get exhaust. That's what we do when we have a car and we press the throttle. So there is a big difference in AKI. So that was what was shown in 2015. But now, more recent studies have been showing the time factor. And this is very important to the quality indicators feature I'm going to try to show you next. So we know that there is a time dose response for low oxygen delivery and for any goal-directed perfusion parameter. In here you can see the very interesting study in which the red bars represent patients who were exposed to low oxygen delivery for less than 15 minutes. So a short exposure to low DO2. The blue bar represents the group of patients who were exposed for more than 15 minutes to low DO2. So if you have a very low pump flow during bypass for a long period, it's worse than to have short periods of 5 minutes, let's say, of low DO2. So there is a time dose response. And so we have developed a feature to help you avoid this during bypass. And then we had the goal-directed perfusion trial, the GIFT trial, that finally showed in a prospective way that, in fact, there is an impact on renal outcomes after bypass. And after that, there is a lot of papers published on this. This gave, let's say, the laws of goal-directed perfusion, limit hemodilution, keep a high DO2, increase DO2, trying to act on pump flow and not so much on hemoglobin, so do not transfuse just to increase the DO2, and guide the transfusion based on oxygen extraction ratio and SVO2. We have to try to avoid the anaerobic zone, so provide enough oxygen for the needs of the metabolic needs of the patient. DO2 is what we give of oxygen, VCO2 is how much the patient needs. So if you have a very high VCO2, very high CO2 production, it means that we are not giving enough blood flow to the patient. And finally, we should try to avoid diuretics during bypass because these, and vasopressors, because these increase the oxygen consumption by the kidney. So that's what we want to try to avoid and target optimal perfusion. This is the formula for DO2, and what we can act is on pump flow, hemoglobin, and PO2. That's what we can do during bypass. And what we want to avoid exactly, it's this. It's a mismatch between oxygen delivery and CO2 production. This is depicted from another study from Philippe de Sommer and Marco Ranucci. What happens when this relationship, the red line, which is how much oxygen you give versus how much CO2 you are producing, and the blue line, which has the lactates, right? So whenever there is a mismatch, when it goes down, the lactates start to go up. That's simple. So that's why we need to try naturally to avoid during bypass. And there is a slight delay on that, but it will happen. The CO2 monitoring, it's very important, but current technology offers a big challenge, which is if you flush the operative field with CO2, like many centers do, to keep the atmosphere of CO2 to avoid gas emboli, then the VCO2 measurement is not reliable. So it's a very important parameter, but with the current technology available, which is analyzing the amount of CO2 in the exhaust port of the oxygenator, if you are using CO2 to flush the operative field, then you should not rely on those values because they will be contaminated. Eventually, this can only be overcome when reliable PaCO2 sensors are available on the market. And this is our targets, or should be our targets during bypass. This is how we should keep these parameters. High DO2, high relationship between oxygen delivery and waste production, CO2 production. Keep a low oxygen extraction ratio. So it means that you are giving enough oxygen for what your patient is consuming. What happens if you have an imbalance here? So if your oxygen consumption, the amount of oxygen the patient is using, is not enough, this relationship will increase. It means that if you are not giving, for example, giving enough blood flow for what your patient needs, then the blood or the tissues will have the need to remove more oxygen from the blood than they would normally do. So it makes that this relationship will be unbalanced. So what we want to have is the adequate amount of oxygen being delivered to the patient compared to what he needs. And that will also be translated in the production of CO2. So if you have a low production of CO2, this is what gives you the metabolic rate, how much oxygen your patient needs. And therefore, this relationship, the relationship between the number 1 and number 5 gives you number 2, correct? That's what we're looking at. So keep the oxygen delivery high and the CO2 production low. That's what we need to do. How is this reflected in the latest European guidelines, which are the most comprehensive cardiopulmonary bypass management guidelines available? So what we look? We look at, we should have online or continuous measurement of at least venous saturation and hematocrit. That's a class 1 indication. And of course, we should have a regular blood gas analysis, but done by a benchmark or a benchtop blood gas analyzer. And the big difference is here that in the 2024 guidelines, to keep a high DO2 is class 1 level of evidence aid, the strongest recommendation you can have, and based on very robust scientific evidence. So we should definitely monitor in real time oxygen delivery and use it as a tool to prevent the occurrence of complications, mainly renal, from our patients. But that's not enough. We should also regulate the adequacy of pump flow. How do we know if our pump flow is enough or not? Is by looking at several other parameters as we discussed previously. So DO2 is the main, but it's not the only one. Right? There is life beyond oxygen delivery. Now, more recently, Professor Ranucci and his colleagues started to introduce a new concept, or to go beyond oxygen delivery and goal-directed perfusion. So it's multifactorial perfusion indexes. What does this mean in clinical practice? It means that patients, some of them, will develop acute kidney injury. So CSA is cardiac surgery-associated acute kidney injury. So this column here, it's patients who did develop AKI postoperatively. And this second column is patients who did not develop AKI. So what are the differences between them? Age, preoperative serum creatinine, hematocrit, previous open heart surgery, severity class, and the Cleveland risk score, which is a patient frailty score. These are different. What does this mean? This means that for certain patients, or all the patients will have, before the operation, a fixed risk of developing acute kidney injury no matter what you do. There are simply differences in the patients' populations. Certain patients have a much higher risk than others. That's what we want to highlight here. And then this was translated to the procedure-related risks. This is what we can manipulate during bypass. And interesting, everything has a difference, except so the minimum arterial pressure and the minimum venous saturation didn't have any differences between the patients who developed and the patients who did not develop AKI. So it means that if you have a lower hematocrit, you have more postoperative AKI. If you have a low oxygen delivery, you have the same. The time of exposure to low oxygen delivery, there is also a difference. So patients, depending on what you do on bypass, there will be also a translation into more or less patient complications. So long story short, some patients will have a risk fixed of developing renal complications that it won't change no matter what you do during bypass. But then there is bypass-related variables or parameters that if you don't comply with them, then your patient will suffer and struggle with it. So that's the reason. And then the same authors did a study to validate this index. So the first data was basically a baseline, and now they did a prospective study to validate this and again, you'll find the same. So once again, mean arterial pressure was the only parameter that didn't have any impact on renal outcome. So apparently, for the sake of kidney function on a postoperative period, apparently mean arterial pressure doesn't have much impact, at least for the results of this study. And more, even lately, there are other studies coming in, and this is, I would like to call attention to this, because this is a meta-analysis and systematic review of the literature that has been published until 2024, of all studies regarding analyzing outcomes of patients when using the goal-directed therapy objectives. And as you may see, everything that goes, as these lozenges are to the left, they favor the use of goal-directed perfusion. Everything that goes to the right doesn't. So if you look at ICU lengths of stay, if you look at all sorts of complications, renal, neurological, etc., you always see that the lozenge is always to the left and also favors, no matter what complication you look at, you can see that all of them do favor the use of GDP. So high oxygen delivery does not have only an impact on renal outcomes. It has also on all sorts of outcomes. So it's not only the kidney, it's everything. So I think that is quite important. And finally, we have the cost reduction. Of course, that we have to understand that these new perfusion systems now are more expensive than eventually previous generations. There is more technology involved, there is software involved, there are more safety devices involved, so we need to justify why we need a machine with or without patient monitor, or if we are considering a new generation device or an older generation device. So let's look at costs. There have been studies that compare what is the cost reduction when you use GDP or not. And then let's look at several countries. Belgium. So this is TP strategy, means traditional perfusion strategy. GDP means GDP. And this is the cost difference between groups. So you see that in Belgium, the average saving is nearly 2,000 euros per patient. So remember, less complications, less costs to treat complications, less ICU stay, less hospital stay, better quality of life of the patients. So this is the panorama in Belgium. In Canada, it's 3,000 Canadian dollars per patient, less, right? You look at France, and it's 2,000 euros per patient. United States, the same. A huge amount of money per patient. No, if you tell me, okay, a new generation heart lung machine costs what used to cost an old one plus 50%, you will get the money back very quickly. So if you invest in technology, this has an impact on results, and on having an impact on patient outcomes has also an opportunity for cost savings as well. And so that's why we need a patient monitor. That's why we need to implement GDP, and we have tools for it. Our product gives you in real time all the parameters that you need to assess your quality of perfusion. Am I doing well during bypass? And it's not only what we provide currently, it's also what we can, and I'm sure that you will see LivaNova deploying new parameters, new indexes, and new tools to help you in perfusion. So you are buying also an expandable and scalable platform that will evolve in the future. And this will also generate, it generates already, if you want, to have a network connection to your hospital information system and export the data for later review, for quality control, for research, if you want. And this is what you see basically, what you call the GDP view. You have the GDP parameters in a table, in graphs. All of this is customizable. You can decide which parameters you want to see and how. And that is a major feature. But the major one, that's what I would like to discuss you here briefly, is this one, is the quality indicators. So quality indicators, it's a feature that is embedded in the system, in which allows you, or allows to the head of department, the chief perfusionist or head of department, to set what is the good practice in your department. So let's say, just as an example, let's say that in your department, you should keep the mean arterial pressure between 50 and 80. You should have a DO2 of at least 280. You should have lactates low. Your SVO2 is above 70, for example. So you can set those parameters and the limits that are acceptable to keep them, and also the time under which the perfusionist can have that parameter off limits. Let's say DO2 for more than 5 minutes, because you give people some time. Sometimes you need time to react. If you have a hypotension, you may need some time to get the drugs that you need to bring the pressure up again. So you can decide what is the lower and the upper limit of each parameter, and then also a time for reaction. So the time that people are allowed to have to correct the imbalance. Whenever you are off limits for more than the time that has been decided, you start getting these orange numbers. It means that you are off limits on that particular parameter. And this will be recorded naturally, and is naturally an initiative to improve quality. It allows you to review your data and naturally look back and understand where does your team performance really has to be improved, or even my own. Right? I can tell you by my own experience, when I transitioned from a paper record to an electronic record, I quickly understood that there were certain aspects of my practice that needed to be improved, because now I have numbers that show me that. And so that's the beauty of these systems. It's not only to give you real-time information, to provide the adequate information for you to control your patient well, but it's also the ability to review your practice and point solutions for your improvement. And that was what the system is designed to. The quality indicators do have several features, so you can decide which parameters. So it's fully configurable. You decide what you are doing. But above all, every value is captured from the Essence idling machine, potentially from external devices, and then there are calculations made by the Essence patient monitor. So that's how this works basically. You can decide, you can select which parameter from a list that are available, and then decide upper value, minimum value, higher value, etc. You can decide how you do it better. And so finally, we have the flexibility and the efficiency. So just a few I see that my time is going on. So the intuitive user interface, so it's very easy normally for people to transition from the previous systems to the current. The screen is always black and white. You only get colors if there is a call for action, if there is an alarm. It's always black and white. And we know that this is something that is a strong platform that you can evolve, and you will receive updates and new features in the future. You can move the pumps around because they are all mast mounted. There is a new system for cable arrangement, so they don't have loose cables. So the cables are all rolled out, and when it's closed, it looks like this. So even if you have a blood splash, the cables will be protected. Multiple configurations are possible: left side, right side, how many pumps you want to have. It's really completely flexible solution on that end. And we have multiple accessories that allow you to better configure the machine and better place the pumps according to your needs. We have these arms that allow you to have oxygenators up or down, pumps on masts, etc. I would just like to, I'll just go quickly through the baseline installation of the Essence. So you can connect external devices and then you export the data on the base configuration to a USB stick, but it can be also printed or can be used as what we call an SQL database. Let's say if you have more than one machine in the department, they are connected through Wi-Fi to your hospital information system, and you can store the information from all machines in a single database and then play with the data. The evolving platform will be our big launch next year, and with this I finish, which is the Essence Air Manager. So it will be a new device that will combine an electronic gas blender with redundancy. It means that you will have two gas blenders inside, two electronic gas blenders. As usual in Livanova, we always have redundancy. If something fails, you have automatically a new one. You have vacuum controller for VAVD, and we have a capnograph to analyze CO2 production. You have the opportunity to decide if you want or not the capnograph. So it's optional. So two electronic blenders, two vacuum regulators inside. So if one fails, you automatically have the next one. And this will be launched roughly in a year from now in Q4 2024. And we finish up then with this short video just to show your appreciation and as customers. And can we have some sound here, or can we have some sound on the video? Sorry. This is the Essence Air Manager, how it will look. It integrates fully in the Essence idling machine, and it will be our next step on evolution for a new era. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope I was not too much convinced on this one. As we still have some time, can we load the second presentation I have, please, if you don't mind? All right. So, second talk, it's about the MEAC and what is the rationale to use it, and what are the systems that we have currently available on the market. So we know that the problem with MEAC is this. Standard bypass has a very complex procedure, a very complex system. And so the question for us is always, what can we do to improve it, right? So what can we do to improve the system? And of course that we'll have to look at the biocompatibility enhancements. If we really do need a venous reservoir, advanced membrane oxygenation technologies to be developed, can we improve our blood pumps or not? And also, above all, if we can have a smart suction system. So the definition of MEAC is this one that is provided by the MEACTIS Society, and these are the advantages of it. So it's supposed to be a closed system, no contact of blood with the air, shorter tubing and therefore shorter priming, coated circuits, use of cell salvage for management of the suction, use of a centrifugal pump. So those are the systems, and so the official definition of a MEAC circuit, it should have this sort of components. In terms of historical evolution, we have seen the big enthusiasm was on the year 2000s when we had some minimization trend. We had the classifications already in the 2010s, and now we have the integration of MEAC into GDP perfusion strategy. The circuit components, and it's basically this. So this is what we aim. Shortened tubing set, you may not need an integrated arterial filter at all, because as there is no contact of the blood with air, then you may not need an arterial filter. So many of the centers currently using MEAC do not use an arterial line filter. And we should have an air management system, because as we don't have a venous reservoir, we will need somehow to remove the air from the system if some air gets into the venous line. It also should have a centrifugal pump, a membrane oxygenator, and a closed venous reservoir and a venous blood trap. They have 4 types of systems, from the simplest to most complex. I'll show you in some detail. This was the first one that was developed and used. It's basically an ECMO circuit. Now, this is an ECMO circuit. You have a centrifugal pump and an oxygenator, and that's it. This is the first one to be developed. Later on, it was added the suction management and the ventings, right? And also, it was also introduced the cardioplegia pumps in the system. And so the system, by adding these components, turns like this. It's the ECMO plus the air management plus the cardioplegia. Later on, we have the type 3. What did the type 3 added? Basically, a venous bubble trap and a blood bag, a bag for the blood. So it adds volume management. So as you don't have a venous reservoir, if you need to empty out your patient, you need to send the blood to somewhere, right? There is no venous reservoir hard shell to store your blood. So you need to have a large blood bag where you can send the blood of the patient to store it and then give it back when the procedure is about to finish or whenever it's required. So and then the system becomes something like this. So suction management and blood and volume management. And later on, these are the most recent ones, we go towards a hybrid system. So you add a venous reservoir which remains clamped during the procedure, right? It's clamped before and after, and so that allows you, in case you need, there is a large bleeding or some situation that forces you to convert from MEAC to a standard open system. So it's very simple. You just remove these clamps, and you clamp the other line, of course, that goes to the centrifugal pump, and with a vacuum device, you have now a standard bypass system. So this is what it called type 4, or if you want, the hybrid system. And it turns something like this. That's what you see right now. So the systems have been evolving. They become more complex. That is eventually one of the criticisms that some people do to the MEAC systems, is that currently they seem almost as a standard bypass system. But obviously they provide you more flexibility and allow you to be prepared, shall there be the need to use this system as an open standard CPB system and not a MEAC if needed be. Now, this is what we can see in clinical practice. So we have a centrifugal pump, we have an Inspire oxygenator in this case with no arterial filter, you have a venous bubble trap, and you have the air purge control line to remove air. If some air goes into the venous line, you need to have a way to remove it. So this air purge control means that you are connected to a roller pump that will automatically start once it detects that there is air in the system. And you have naturally the cardioplegia pumps. This, it looks, from a different perspective, It's this one, so you can see that basically the base of the machine, there's nothing there. In this case, they only have 2 cardioplegia pumps to provide cardioplegia, and you have 1 air purge control pump just to manage the air. So it's very simple, in fact, and very easy to use. In here, you can see more of these details. The venous bubble trap. You have in here a vent line that I'll try to show you in one of these videos. So you have an extra cell saver and the vent suction. So the suction goes into a 3-way stopcock that is then connected to the venous bubble trap. So it basically uses the negative pressure of the centrifugal pump to remove or to pull the blood from the patient's aorta, aortic root vent, or other vent that you may have. So that minimizes also the amount of blood that is sent to the cell saver, and therefore minimize also the need for washing if needed be. So to use the vent line connected to the venous bubble trap, it's a good idea, or maybe a good idea. And these are the systems before and after priming. Some centers, like in Turkey, they use this blood cardioplegia reservoir as well. So there is a cardiotomy suction dash blood cardioplegia reservoir, and this is how it looks, the Inspire mini system that Livanova provides currently on the market. It also allows you to have a perfect data integration with the hospital information system, as you may see. And this is probably the way that we will see MIAC in the near future. So it's a drive towards hybrid systems that will allow you to manipulate the situation during bypass in case you need more suction, in case the patient bleeds, in case you have a complication, like, let's say, you have during MIAC, you have an aortic dissection due to a cannulation problem. You need quite immediately to transform that system, the MIAC system, into a standard bypass system. And so this is what these systems do provide to you. Now, the question is, why should we use it, right? There should be a very good, there's a very good, let's say, scientific background to use it. From several studies we know, if we compare the results of using the MIAC and standard bypass, that it favors, in fact, MIAC for simple procedures. And that, I think, is when we talk a little bit forward on the comics trial, we will see that. It also allows you lower hyperonization because you don't have contact of the patient with blood. And in fact, when you compare results from both techniques, it obviously favors the MIAC system because you have reduced priming volume, lower inflammatory reaction, less hemodilution. So you have a number of scientifically proven, let's say, evidence. And we have also the guidelines from the MIACTIS Society that do highlight some of the key features of the systems. If we look at the published literature, I call your attention for this. This is a meta-analysis published in 2021. And again, they show that there is, when you compare multiple studies that compare standard bypass with MIAC, once again, there is strong evidence that there is reduction of complications. You have superiority in what it comes to patient safety outcomes. It should be eventually the preferred technology for cardiac surgery, and its results show consistency across several countries and in terms of outcomes as well. And this is the summary of this meta-analysis. In fact, there is a consistent pattern towards the favoring of using the MIAC solution. But then we have to look at the big trial that has been published this year. we call the COMICS. It's the first large randomized prospective clinical trial comparing both techniques head-to-head. And so the main results and findings is that the primary outcome for this study, which was a composite of 12 postoperatively severe postoperative events, SAEs, up to 30 days after surgery. So they studied the patients up to 1 month after the procedure. And we head-to-head comparison, you see that 9.7% of the MEAC patients had one of these events, but 13% of the standard bypass patients had them. So it's a considerable difference between groups, and this is with a risk ratio of 0.73, which is very statistically significantly. Other SAEs, other adverse events, not included in the primary outcome, also trending lower with the MEAC. It shows favorable treatment effects for most secondary outcomes as well. But we have to look at this important set of data. So when it comes to single, you see, I'm not sure that the pointer is not being effective enough, but you see the red line. The red line, everything that is to the left, the dots, favors the MEAC. Everything goes to the right favors standard bypass. And so when it comes to combined procedure, for example, CABG plus AVR, what you see is that the relation goes to the right. So MEAC is in fact very effective for single procedures, for simple procedures. When it comes to more complex procedures, the relationship favors standard cardiopulmonary bypass. That's the big result. And to conclude, just to show you the LivaNova solution on this matter, which is the LivaNova Mini I. It has all the features that you may need, from coating, polyurethane heat exchange, and not a metal one, long path flow oxygenator. And this is a list of our references used in here. If you would like to receive some news from LivaNova Cardiopulmonary, including our scientific newsletter, just please scan that QR code and you will receive it on your email. And so I want you to thank you for your time. And again, it was a big pleasure to be here. And congratulations once again for this magnificent event. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you very
welcome
much.
questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nuno, for your valuable contributions and nice presentation. And thank you very much for LivaNova of family for support symposium. Thank you very much. See you again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sevgili katılımcılar, değerli Mr. Nuno ve LivaNova'nın sunmuş olduğu bu güzel sunumdan sonra bizim için en önemli olan şey doğru hastaya doğru malzemeyi doğru zamanda kullanmak. Hem hastanın en kısa sürede iyileşmesine yardımcı oluyor. Makineler şu an için pahalı gibi görünüyor ama yapılan doğru müdahaleyle hasta erkenden iyileşip evine gidiyor, sosyal yaşantısına dönüyor. Bunların hepsi çok önemli. Katılımlarınız için çok teşekkür ederiz. Soru veya katılımda bulunmak isteyen var mı? Evet.
Benim bir sorum yok ama teşekkür konuşmam olacak. Öncelikle sempozyuma sağladıkları, daha doğrusu bu oturuma sağladıkları katkı ve destek için LivaNova ailesine teşekkür ediyorum. Klinik tecrübelerini, perfüzyona dair yenilikleri, bilgi ve deneyimlerini bizlerle paylaştığı için Mr. Nuno'ya çok teşekkür ederim. Sağ olsun.
Sevgili katılımcılar, ayrılmadan önce toplu bir şekilde fotoğraf çekineceğiz. Ayrıca Perfüzyonistler Derneği Yönetim Kurulu'na çok teşekkür ederiz bize verdikleri bu güzel imkan için. Hakikaten çok güzel bir oturum, çok güzel bir tartışma oldu diyeyim. Tartışma değil de bilgiyi paylaşma diyelim.